We live in a time where, more than ever before, it's important to consider what we gain from new technologies, but also what we stand to lose. I want you to immerse yourselves in one of those technologies, artificial intelligence. I want you to read books and talk to experts and really understand how to apply this transformational technology to your business. I want you to also hold tech companies accountable for how they use AI, and I'd like you to look at your politicians' platforms for principles about AI. Those are going to creep in there. But most of all, I want you to ask yourselves, what kind of future, shaped by the huge promise and peril of AI, do you imagine for yourselves and for your children? I've written a book called Our Final Invention. It tells a story you won't hear from Amazon or Facebook or any of the people who are making a lot of money from AI. It's a good time for this story now because we're at the beginning of an AI revolution whose size is truly hard to grasp. One way to look at it is with sheer dollars. Since 2009, the amount we've invested in AI has doubled every year. Right now, it's at $30 billion. McKinsey tells us that by 2025, the space of AI and automation together will be worth between $10 and $20 trillion. That same year, by 2025, Gartner tells us 1/3 of all jobs will be taken by AI, 1/2 by 2040. I just read that half of all banking jobs will be gone in a decade. My favorite way to understand the AI revolution is a little more human scale. It's this: everything electrified will be cognitized. Everything electrified will be cognitized. All your appliances, all your doodads and gizmos in your office and at home, they'll all belong to the Internet of Things. Your home will be a node on the smart grid, and we'll see how smart centralizing the grid is. It might not be that smart. Beyond that, think about smart warehouses that resupply themselves, smart factories where devices tell the factory what parts they need to be assembled. And beyond that, think about smart cities where ubiquitous technology, ubiquitous intelligence, looks after the welfare of every citizen. The sky is really the limit with AI. But the success of the AI revolution won't depend on whether everything electrified is cognitized. It will depend on a much older concept: ethics. Are these systems good or bad? Do they increase the gulf between rich and poor, or do they empower the least well-off? Are the systems we create necessary and good? If the answer is yes, we have a lot to look forward to. If the answer is no, the AI revolution may be very painful and very short. When my book came out a few years ago, you could fit everybody involved in the AI risk conversation into a phone booth. And when I tell this to students, they ask, what's a phone booth? But then the late Stephen Hawking said, in the short term, the problem with AI is who controls it, and this is very important. In the short term, the problem is who controls it. In the long term, can it be controlled at all? And Elon Musk said, we're summoning the demon. He said he invests in AI not to get rich, but to monitor its safety. He said it poses our greatest existential threat because we could lose control. So he also evoked this control problem. Then Bill Gates, who's now turning to epidemiology, and he uses AI tools all the time in studying diseases and disease control. He said in the short term we're going to gain from AI, but in the long term we have to worry about it becoming smarter than we are and losing control. So that phone booth got very crowded and everybody in it was clamoring about control. So how do we get from where we are with AI to the control problem? Well, we need some simple tools to help us, but these simple definitions will give us some powerful insights. What is AI? It's the theory and development of computer systems able to perform tasks that normally require human intelligence, like visual perception, speech recognition, decision-making, translation, and so on. So you see how this definition throws you right back to human intelligence, because for the most part, what we know about intelligence is human-level intelligence. But here's a gateway thought for you. Just the way that gateway drugs lead to better drugs, gateway thoughts lead to better, more productive thoughts. Here's the gateway thought. AI is the most profound look we've ever had at what we are. Artificial intelligence is the deepest look that scientists have ever had at what makes us who we are and what we are. Because it involves neuroscience, it involves psychology, it involves ethics, it involves language, it involves recognizing objects, it involves how do you change a percept, something you see in the environment, to a concept, something you can carry around in your head. A 3-year-old girl sees a cat and she'll remember cats for the rest of her life. An algorithm has to see 1,000 pictures of cats and 1,000 pictures of dogs to know the difference. So artificial intelligence asks us in a very meaningful way, what is it we hope to do when we want to mirror human cognition in a machine? And what is our superpower, intelligence? This is a nifty little definition I got from one of the founders of DeepMind. It says, there's a lot packed into it. It says, intelligence is goal-oriented. If you're not driving a car or theorem proving or navigating or translating, your intelligence is probably not very high quality. And not only that, you should have intelligence in some different domains, some novel environments. You should take that intelligence and apply it to languages, to driving cars, to all the things that we do, to search, to knowledge retrieval. The more the better, because then it becomes more general, like our intelligence. The most important thing on here is probably learning. All the animals in the world are born with all the abilities they'll ever have, but not you. You can learn new languages, you can learn new skills, new arts. You can spend your life honing a skill. Some things take a lifetime to get perfect. All this sets a very high bar on intelligence. It says that intelligence is difficult. It's not easy. When you hope to mirror human cognition in a machine, you're up against it because it's difficult. So is it possible? Can scientists achieve it? Let's do our own little test here. I'm a big believer in the wisdom of crowds. Let's do our own little survey. Raise your hand if you think it's possible to create human-level intelligence in a machine given time. Okay. If you didn't raise your hand, then you believe that either the problem is too hard in an engineering sense, and that scientists will just keep bumping up against it, or there's something about the brain that's not computable, that's mystical or magical, or something about the brain. Who thinks the problem is too hard? Just too hard, we'll never get there. Who thinks there's something about the brain we'll never get right? It's just not computable. Okay, there are no wrong answers here. For my book, I interviewed about 22 AI makers and a bunch more regular programmers. And guess how many said the problem was impossible? And not only that, most of them said we could do it before the end of this century. Now, for you statisticians and philosophers out there, this is a blatant appeal to authority. That's a logical fallacy. But as you know, it can be persuasive, and I think in this case it's very persuasive. So I find it easy to believe that there's a very high probability that we will create human-level intelligence in a machine. Ray Kurzweil, the inventor and one of the chief directors of engineering at Google right now, thinks that $1,000 of computing will buy you human-level intelligence in a machine by 2029. So a lot of AI makers believe this. But how exactly will machines get to the next step? So you've got a machine that's as smart as a human. How does it get to something that's much smarter? That will scare Elon Musk and scare Bill Gates and scare the late Stephen Hawking? Interestingly, in the 1960s, a statistician named I.J. Good was thinking about this very problem. He was one of these geniuses that thinks 50 years ahead. He was evaluating the first neural net. It was called the perceptron. It was created by Roger Rosenblatt. He was evaluating it for IBM, the first neural net, the first simple learning algorithm that you feed data to and get results. He evaluated it and he saw something in it about intelligence, and he said something like this. He said, if we create something that's as good as we are intellectually in every domain, then one of the things it will be good at is creating artificial intelligence. One of the things it will be good at is making smart machines. And then the pace of intelligence will grow like this, not like this. Our intelligence putters along. We get a little bit of augmentation from AI. But once machines are making machines smart, it will go like that. So I rephrase Good's theorem to make it a little more easy to understand. We've already created machines that are better than humans at chess, Go, and tasks like navigation and search. Better at some jobs like analyzing legal contracts. Soon we'll create machines that are better than humans at AI R&D. At that point, they'll be able to improve their intelligence very quickly. And these machines will jump from roughly human-level intelligence to what people are referring to as superintelligence. Now, think about it like this also. Here's ant intelligence, here's dog intelligence, here's chimp intelligence, here's James, here's another chimp. But up there, we don't know how high it goes. We have no reason to believe that there's an upper boundary on intelligence. So the first step, of course, is to create machines that are as smart as humans. Now, who would take on a crazy project like that, and why? Who would possibly take on that crazy project? All these people. These are people, companies, and countries. All have said explicitly or implied very strongly that the job number one is creating human-level intelligence in a machine. Why? Because it would be the most lucrative product in the history of the world. Take 100 PhD-quality brains and chain them together and take on climate modeling, take on cancer research, take on disease eradication of all kinds, take on famine, take on weapons development. One thing the late Stephen Hawking was worried about was that smart machines, super intelligent machines, would develop weapons that we don't even understand. Imagine putting this product into robots. Who wouldn't want that technology? Who wouldn't want to be the first to create it? So there's kind of a race going on right now. And so, we love a race. Americans love races. Everybody loves races. Here's the race. Google is the Manhattan Project of AI, as far as I'm concerned. They have a $200 billion war chest. They have Ray Kurzweil. Ray Kurzweil, as I said, is one of the directors of engineering. He wants to make a machine that makes 100 trillion calculations per second, and to share that with 1 billion people online. Now, what is that? That's intelligence on tap. It would be a fabulous product. He thinks he can do it by 2029, the same year that he anticipates. Is that my feedback? He anticipates 2029 is the year that he anticipates that $1,000 of computing will get you human-level intelligence in a machine. Contestant number 2 is IBM's Watson. And it's impressive because of all the wonderful things it does in the real world. Unlike any other cognitive technology, it's taking a giant leap into enterprise. Watson does so many things. You can give it a year's worth of your business's data, it will spit out a well-written annual report, and then follow up with answering questions that you have about how you can do better next year. It looks at dark clusters in X-rays and finds tumors better than humans. It does legal search, what we usually pay first-year law associates to do. In a bank in Brazil, it's answering 300,000 customer service questions a month with 95% accuracy. That's just astounding. So it's doing all these things, but its intelligence is not general. Remember our definition of intelligence? Here's Watson's head fake. Watson is a name that's applied to a bunch of different technologies. It's a trade name that IBM puts on different technologies. So the Watson that's answering customer service questions is not the same Watson that's doing oncology or doing radiology, okay? So it's a little bit of a head fake, but it's still very impressive. Here's contestant number 3 is the one that keeps me up at night. They're called DeepMind. They're called DeepMind because of their technique of deep learning. What we've learned is that if you take a simple learning algorithm and you cram a lot of data into it, you'll get better performance than handcrafted models, than handcrafted programmings. And if you use many layers, a hierarchy of these learning algorithms, you'll get even better results, and that's deep learning. So what they did is they crammed thousands of games of the Asian game Go into a deep learning algorithm. Go is an Asian strategy game that's an order of magnitude more complex than chess. And within a week, it beat all the Go grand champions. One of them, Lee Sedol, the play was so bizarre and interesting. Lee Sedol got up and walked out of one game because he just emotionally couldn't handle it. So then DeepMind did something even more impressive that I don't understand enough about and I want to learn more about. They used a technique called deep adversarial learning, and they created a program called AlphaGo Zero. AlphaGo Zero saw no games of Go. It knew the rules. It played against itself, deep adversarial learning. It played against itself, and the big data component was its own games being fed back into it. And it grew like this. Its ability grew like this. So in a week, it beat AlphaGo. And here's the thing about and this is a small model of the intelligence explosion in one domain. Remember, the intelligence explosion is about human level intelligence, which is in many domains. This is a toy version of it in one domain, the game of Go, but it went like that. And here's the interesting part to me is we know that it beat AlphaGo, and we know AlphaGo beat the humans, but we don't know by how much. They might have beat them by 1,000 times. AlphaGo Zero might have beat its predecessor by 1,000 times because there's a lot of room up there. Again, we don't know we have no reason to think intelligence is bounded by anything. So right in front of us, we have this little model of the intelligence explosion happening, but in a narrow domain, not in a human level domain. But this made somebody anxious. I've outlined him in red, so you can see my wonderful artwork. His name is Demis Hassabis. He's the co-founder of DeepMind and the CEO. And he got anxious because he saw this is a little version of the intelligence explosion. And then he thought, when we get near the intelligence explosion, when all these people that are trying to create human-level intelligence in a machine, when they get near the basic components for the intelligence explosion, will they get together? Will they get together? And he concluded, no, they won't get together. But why would he conclude that? And maybe it's because of some of the nefarious behavior the tech giants have had in the past. Facebook, for example, just sold your data to Cambridge Analytica, which sold it to Russia, which tried to influence an election. We don't know if it worked out or not. But they also sold it to Chinese manufacturers. And if you know anything about China, you know that that data is now in the hands of the Chinese government. So the Chinese government knows more about you and all your contacts than your mom. I'm absolutely not kidding about that. Google has 400 lawyers because they've been sued in 20 countries for everything from predatory business practices to copyright violation to tax evasion. Apple still works with Foxconn. Foxconn is an industrial manufacturer. In Foxconn City in 2010, 14 people committed suicide. Foxconn responded by putting up suicide netting on some of its towers and then stopping reporting suicide. So maybe Demis Hassabis is worried that the people in charge of the intelligence explosion can't be trusted. This leads to the crux of our problem. We're in an intelligence race. We're racing towards intelligence. We're on the fast track to creating machines 1,000 or millions of times more intelligent than we are. And A, we don't have a clue about how to control it. And B, the people in charge may not be trusted. We can't use past technological achievements as an example of how to behave because we've never created anything that could outsmart us. Our own evolution might provide some guide. We steer the planet not because we're the fastest or the strongest creature, but because we're the most intelligent. When we share the planet with something 1,000 times more intelligent than we are, who will be in charge? Who will be in control? Because here's what Demis Hassabis really wants you to know about the artificial intelligence revolution and the intelligence race. It's not between Apple and Google. It's not between Facebook and Amazon or China and the United States. It's between humans and machines. At stake are all the generations that come after us. To get it right, we have between now and when the first human-level intelligence in a machine is created, setting the groundwork for the intelligence explosion. A chilling parallel exists in technology that is somewhat instructive, and it shows how our innovation always runs ahead of our stewardship. If you remember one thing from me, remember this: our innovation always runs ahead of our stewardship. In the 1920s and 30s, people thought of nuclear fission as a way to split the atom and get free energy. You split the atom, you get free energy, and this period of utopia is supposed to follow. It's very much like the singularity. And AI is tracking fission very closely. But what happened with fission? Well, we quickly weaponized it. We incinerated 2 cities full of people. And then we held a gun to our own heads for 60 years. We held a gun to our own heads, and we tried to kill ourselves several times. We came very, very close with mutually assured destruction. That acronym, by the way, was coined by the computer genius John von Neumann. So there was no maintenance plan for fission. There's no maintenance plan for AI. A species dumb enough to almost kill themselves with fission might fail with a more sensitive technology. If you have one book about AI, I recommend the standard text. It's called Artificial Invention, a Modern Approach. Artificial Intelligence, a Modern Approach. And in the introduction, it says, oh, by the way, advanced artificial intelligence will be as sensitive as nuclear fission. Is there a solution? I won't lie, it's certainly not a simple one. I want to draw your attention to a couple of non-profit organizations that are doing good work trying to bring AI makers together with ethicists and trying to make AI makers get ready for the intelligence explosion. MIRI, the Machine Intelligence Research Institute, is one. The Future of Life Institute is another. MIRI is the Machine Intelligence Research Institute. FLI is the Future of Life Institute. Max Tegmark is the head of FLI. They're trying to mitigate what they see coming at us. But here's what bothers me about these incredibly brilliant people running these not-for-profits. If you took all their operating budgets and put them together, you might get $10 million. Google has a war chest of $200 billion. The NSA, the National Security Agency, has a $50 billion a year black budget. That means you can't scrutinize it unless you're a member of Congress. And we know that members of Congress are not the most technologically astute people in the room. So here are a few concrete steps you can take. Acquire a deep understanding of the main AI tools. Keep track of developments in artificial intelligence and use AI. The technology is not evil. We're still in that phase where we have to worry about who's controlling it, not can it be controlled. Scrutinize the platforms of your elected officials. Pretty soon you're going to see creeping into them positions on AI. If you don't see them pretty soon, then demand that they're created, that they put those in their platform, or get different officials. Tell politicians you want something like the IAEA, that's the International Atomic Energy Agency. I'm the last person to say that regulation is the way to go, but I think regulation is the way to go. We need an IAEA for AI. And a lot of people in AI are coming to that conclusion. What I hope you got from what I've talked about is that we're a small step from human level intelligence in a machine. That step might actually take 20 years, or 11 if you're Ray Kurzweil, or 100 years, but it's going to happen. That is a stepping stone to superintelligence. We don't know how to control superintelligence, and no one's really working on how to control it. We need to be prepared. My sincere thanks to you for listening to me.